Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining me again. So, today is the day that the church remembers George Fox, the founder of the Society of Friends, which we sometimes call the Quakers. George Fox lived in the 17th century, and the story goes that, aged about 19, he had a revelation from God that he should live by the voice of Christ alone. George thought about this in slightly different terms from most other Christians at the time. He talked about the inner light, and he left his family and friends and traveled for a few years in search of spiritual enlightenment. But after a few years of this quest, George started to speak to other people about his idea of the inner light and about his belief that all human actions should be rooted in contemplation and God-given social conscience. He talked about his convictions that led him to oppose political and religious authority, as well as war and slavery. And so it's probably not surprising that before long he found himself in trouble with the authorities. He was very critical of the established church. He found himself in prison several times, once for refusing to take up arms in the defense of his monarch, having been offered a position in the army, or for any other reason, and once for supposedly plotting against the new king, which was not true, and was when he put together the peace testimony, which was a stated commitment to non-violence. At some point, the Society of Friends was formed, and George began to travel the world. The society spread, and it's still very active, especially in matters of social justice today. But today the church also remembers two other people, two saints. One is Saint Hilary, who was a male 4th century French bishop, sometimes referred to as a disturber of the peace, for refusing to go along with things within the church that he felt were wrong. And the other is Saint Kentigern, sometimes also called Mungo, who was a 6th century Scottish bishop. There's one story about Kentigern that I particularly like. Apparently, a Scottish king suspected that his wife was being unfaithful to him and demanded that she should show him a particular ring to prove that she had not given it to her lover. In reality, the king was trying to catch her out and had thrown the ring into the river himself. Scared of execution, the Queen appealed to Bishop Kentigern. He ordered a messenger to go and catch a fish in the river, and on opening this random fish, the ring was miraculously found inside, and the Queen was not executed. On the surface, these three people may not appear to have all that much in common, but it's interesting reading about three different people who the church chooses to remember on the same day. They were all followers of Jesus. They all expressed their faith in different ways, but the stories and the history that we know about all of them shows that they all shared a deep concern for justice, the same concern for justice that's shown by God all the way through the Bible and by Jesus in the stories in the gospel. So once again, I'm going to read you a poem that's also a prayer. This is called Winter Fuel, and yet again, it's from my Advent to Candlemas book, Barefoot Ways by Stephen Cherry. So this is Winter Fuel. As I move across the room to the fire, electric, gas, solid fuel, or whatever it is, so I remember those colder than me this day. As I ladle soup from the pan, I remember those whose bowls are dry. As I warm my meal, I remember those whose food is cold. As I queue at the shop, I remember those who long for frustration like this. God of the cold, the poor, the hungry, be with those who are most nearly yours this day, and be with us all, that together we might turn the tide of history towards the justice your love demands, and for which we so lazily long. Amen. Thank you for joining me. See you again tomorrow, I hope. Bye for now.